Stitching precisely helps make the doll more like what the designer had in mind. When the seams are precise, it will be easier to fit pieces together, the shape will be smoother, and the seams will be almost unnoticeable. A back tack is sewing backwards over an area you have just sewn to make multiple rows of stitches so that it doesn't come undone. When you start sewing, always start at the edge of the fabric. Sew across the seam allowance, back tack, that's stitching backwards, or 2 or 3 stitches at the start of the stitching line, then follow the stitching line. At the end, back tack 2 or 3 stitches at the end of the stitching line, and then continue to sew across the seam allowance and off the fabric. This helps the end of the seam resist pulling out when you stuff the doll. When you make a doll, you sew a lot of curves. The feed dogs and the presser foot move the fabric in a straight line as you sew. You can curve the stitching a bit, but for a tight curve, you need to pivot. First, stop stitching. If the needle is up, not through the fabric, turn the wheel on the right end of the sewing machine until the needle is down. Turn the top of the wheel towards you to go forward. When the needle is down, lift the presser foot. Turn the fabric slightly so the stitching line is in front of the needle, and lower the presser foot. Then continue in the new direction until you need to pivot again. Pinning seams before stitching is necessary. Most fabrics, especially knits, slip and slide over themselves. This slippage causes uneven stitching that distorts the shape. Hitting a pin with the sewing machine needle causes a burr on the needle. A burred needle cuts or breaks thread instead of pushing them out of the way. How you pin is important. Correct pinning helps you remove each pin just before the needle hits. Start pinning at alignment points. These are places where the pieces are obviously supposed to fit together, such as the top center, the bottom center, and the edges of openings. After pinning the alignment points, pin about midway in between, then halve the distance on each side and pin again. You may have to slightly stretch, one piece or the other to get a good fit. Continue adding pins between existing pins until they are about 1/2 inch or 1 centimeter apart. For seams, always start the pins from the outside edge and pin inwards. This leaves the pin heads all on the same side and sticking out from the edge so that you can remove each pin easily just before the needle will hit it. To stitch a seam, start at the edge of the fabric, stitch across the seam allowance, and start the seam. Back tack at the start of the seam. Stitch to the start of the opening. Remove each pin just before the needle gets to it. This is a good place to sew very slowly. Back tack at the edge of the opening. Move the needle to the up position. Lift the presser foot. Reposition the needle at the end of the opening. Lower the presser foot. Start stitching. Back tack to the end of the opening. Stitch to the end of the seam. Back tack at the end of the seam. Stitch across the seam allowance. Lift the presser foot and pull the head back out so that you can clip the threads.